Mr.
Discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to just overall.
Please.
And it's
To
overall budget. It's regarding the comments that I submitted last time for review.
This is a discussion about the flood control district. Are board members willing to let it go and have a broader discussion at this point for Supervisor Miller's purposes?
I would be comfortable doing that.
Very well. Go ahead, Supervisor
Okay.
Miller. I just wanted to make sure everybody was in agreement.
I just wanted to get my discussion out of the way because it involves all of the various districts. And to start out with, I'd like to make my original tax neutral budget proposal really clear. It is for a budget that is tax neutral overall. And there are three components: the flood district, the library district, and the primary. And if one of them goes up, that's okay, but we've got to find the money somewhere else. That's what my tax neutral budget is about. The bottom line, zero increase to the taxpayers. When you get to the bottom line, when you get your tax bill, it's going to be the same as last year. I know that a lot of discussion ensued about it being revenue neutral. No, it's not revenue neutral, it's tax neutral. I hope our revenues go up, our state shared revenues go up this year. And then truth and taxation neutral was another comment that was made. No, that means each of these three separate districts have to be tax neutral. I mean the bottom line, because we talked about the library district and the need to keep the library district budget up. But if we find the money in one of the other areas, I'm good with that.
Mr. Chairman, to that point.
Mr. Valadez, please. Supervisor, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Miller. So for clarity's sake, what we're talking about is a different kind of definition than the statutory definition. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not truth and taxation neutral. It is tax neutral to the taxpayer. So the bottom line, there's of the three components, one of them, like the library district, I think we all can agree that the library district probably needs to go up. But if we find the money in the primary or in the flood district and make the net effect to the taxpayers. I was advocating on behalf of the taxpayers. That's where I was coming from on this.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Miller, sorry, even I was confused about that until right now when you were clarifying.
Okay, that's why I wanted to clarify, because I thought folks were confused about it. So what I would like to do is, if you add up those three mechanisms, the net effect to the taxpayers is zero. The bottom line, you open up your bill, you look at the bottom line. One of them may have gone up, another may have gone down, but the bottom line, you have a net zero impact on your tax bill. And that's what I proposed a couple of weeks ago. And I would like to thank Supervisor Bronson, Supervisor Valadez for directing that we have an analysis of the original proposal, and thank you to Chuck and staff. I know that was a lot of work to go through that and to put out some various potential options. And I feel that opening up that topic a couple of weeks ago for dialogue, and I think that it really helped us to look at it, analyze it, and discover that there may be some alternative options and maybe new suggestions. And so I would like to go through, just kind of summarize. In our discussion a couple of weeks ago, Supervisor Bronson, when we spoke about the library, and that wasn't in my original proposal, I just spoke maybe we could find some money there because that rate is going up 2 cents. And with the valuations going up, that means that's why we're here today with a truth and taxation hearing. And Sharon expressed the need to increase those taxes district in order to sustain the library's operations. There's a couple of new libraries coming online, and so and a part of the capital improvement plan, and I'm not going to disagree with that. I want to make it clear that it is just the bottom line that I'm looking at. So if the library district goes up, I think I can agree that that district going up, as long as the others go down, I can agree that, you know, there is a need to keep that or increase that rate. And the next thing I did, I proposed to maintain the same level of safety, service, and funding from the Regional Flood Control District from the prior fiscal year. I did identify $8.4 million increase in their capital project spending that was a potential for working to make the overall tax neutral. The analysis in the June 11th budget memo that Mr. Huckleberry provided back to the board, he says, reducing the flood control district rate and levy to achieve neutrality is easily executed if the board so desires. And therefore, according to that analysis, we have a potential, I believe, to achieve neutrality. It was something over $1 million, but there was that $8.4 million increase that we could potentially look at possibly pushing out some projects or even eliminating some projects. So I'm asking that we take a hard look at that one again to identify and see if there's any projects that could be placed on hold to maintain this tax neutrality. We already know, Ramon also asked Mr. Huckleberry to provide an analysis to include alternate options to make the budget tax neutral again. And I think that discussion was a good discussion, and it takes all 5 of us to provide the thoughts, input, analysis to find the most beneficial budget for the taxpayers. And next I'd like to, one of the proposals I had was reducing the certificates of participation. And when I read Mr. Huckleberry's memo and we had the discussion in the meeting last time, it was clear that that would impact our transportation funding. So I believe that should be tabled. It wasn't that much money, but it should be tabled until we are in a better position in terms of the pay-go budget. Excuse me. And Chuck said that to keep that $5 million and the $5 million increase per year additional funding going to road repairs, we need to keep that in place. So I would agree that we should. I just wanted us to be aware that we need to start looking at moving away from COPS as soon as we get some funds built up to be able to do the pay-go without these certificates of participation that cost a lot in interest. For the overall county fund balance, in order to maintain our bond rating, we cannot fall below $34 million in the analysis that was done by Mr. Huckleberry. And it concluded that we will have a balance after changes proposed by Supervisor Elias in a prior meeting of $38 million. But there was another $1.4 million potential liability for the DTAP program and the Superintendent of Schools Accommodation District. If you deduct those out, that still leaves a potential of $2 million to use for the tax neutral budget out of the reserve without impacting our bond rating. And then the analysis regarding the various object codes, it appears that there was a very thorough analysis done there, and that there's not a lot of money to be had there. So I would be content with that without the inclusion of this option to create a tax neutral budget. Vacancies, we do have the 1,150 roughly vacancies, vacant positions that are budgeted. And in this memorandum, Mr. Huckleberry said it would be, some efforts have been made and will continue to be made to reduce positions where possible. It does address the complexity to reduce the attrition. And also, per that analysis, the budgeting vacancy savings could create a budget hole that we'd have to address the next year. And what if we didn't eliminate any positions or budget for vacancy savings, yet found a way to use these vacancies to produce expenditure savings? And one of the things, and I have a copy here for each of the board members. If we could do a hiring freeze for as many months as we need to reduce expenditures and give the taxpayers a neutral budget. That isn't something I didn't discuss previously, but we could keep these vacancies in place until they're appropriately eliminated or hiring has taken place. It could provide us conservatively with about 4.16 million for each month that we execute a hiring freeze. And that's if we freeze 1,000 of these openings.
Supervisor Miller, just a clarification, that 4.1 is per month, and the total then would be 8.3?
If it was 2 years, yeah.
2 months.
Excuse me, 2 months. Did I say 2 years? Yeah, 2 months. So it could, there is a potential there for 8.3 million if you froze all 1,000 of them. The other option is maybe to do half of them if we have some hiring that must absolutely happen. Do half of them and freeze them for a little longer period. And I think I have 3 months in the calculations that I did that comes up with a little over $6 million. It would create the potential that we could end up with a tax neutral budget. And I think we all heard from the various managers during the budget hearings how difficult it's going to be to fill these positions anyway. That they are having a very difficult time with almost near full employment with the booming economy, and it's very difficult to find folks to fill them. So I'm thinking it might not be such a hardship to freeze some of these for a few months. That is a potential. And then also with that 8.4 million from the Regional Flood Control District, the 2 million from the overall general fund balance, the potential of freezing hiring, I still think we can provide a tax neutral budget without a lot of impact. And I really think that we should go back on behalf of the taxpayers, sharpen our pencils, and work to get a new tax neutral budget accomplished by working together to give the taxpayers a break without increasing property taxes. And I think with Chuck's analysis on the pay-go, the debt service will be dropping in fiscal year 21, which opens up a lot more options for us in terms of finding more funding. And so that is my proposal. It's not complex, it's simple, and I think it's very doable. I think the hiring freeze, we've had numerous of these vacancies that have been budgeted but not filled for quite some time. I haven't tracked it completely, but I know we've had significant vacancies every year since I've been here. And I know, Chuck, a few years ago you got a lot of them out of there. So I'm proposing that we go back to attempting to try to get there. And I know we have until, was it August 5th, to actually pass the final budget. So we do have time to go back and do further analysis and have more discussion among the Board of Supervisors. I think it's been a really difficult year for taxpayers. We know what happened at the state, and I'm not real happy about it. Our federal tax cuts, income tax cuts, got absorbed by the state of Arizona. They did not do the conformity bill, which would have allowed us to keep our tax cuts, and that didn't happen. And then with the $32 vehicle license fee, and on and on. The taxpayers keep getting hit over and over, and I know that isn't our fault that the state did that, but I think that if we could do something, if we could go back, sharpen our pencils, look at this now, and make a decision on whether we can accomplish this, I know, you know, we need more analysis, and I appreciate all the work that the county staff has done to help us evaluate this. So that is my proposal. I know it's on the flood control district, and I'd really like to hear from everyone else what you think.